The IMF is going to be in town for 2 weeks. That's what we're told. We're also told this is the best decision we can take at this point in time. What new will the IMF come and do?
Well, the IMF coming into town signifies one thing, that things are bad. They don't jump into a country or not invite into a country when things are very good, things are, rosy, like the president wants us to believe and all of those things.
Well, we're told that we're facing challenges, some minute challenges.
Yeah.
You got it.
And the IMF is coming to town, and we are told that's the best option available to us. It means without that, we are doomed. And we have a history with the IMFs. It's not the first time we've gone to them for one program or the other. And if indeed they were the solution to our problems, then of course we wouldn't be back here going back to them. The solution lies with us. How disciplined are we? They come in, they put in all those measures, and then they go away, and then over time we are back to, or even worse off than where we were before they came in. So the IMF certainly will not be the solution to our problems. We've got to fix our fundamentals. It is sad that in Ghana today, we don't have a basic identification system. This is basic.
It's not basic.
This is basic for any country that wants to be serious.
It took us years to even initiate it, so it's not basic.
And even that, do you have your NIA number? I don't have mine. Do you have yours?
Somehow.
Most people don't have.
I'm sure Atik has.
Oh, that's not true. That's not true.
He's not gone for his card.
But this is basic. And this will do a lot of things. It will reduce cost of doing business because, banks and creditors that give individual loans know exactly where to locate them. So there are factors and basics that we have to address before, saying that we are able to deal with this problem or that problem. IMF is coming. Now, there are various implications for their coming. Things are going to be hard because IMF is going to come in and allow you to be paying all these judgment debts, all this.
Well, judgment debt is a judgment debt. If a party goes to court and gets a judgment in default against you, there's nothing.
Well, I'm aware there is one very popular one that we have a court that has all that should be repaid back to the state. It was a judgment debt.
Then that is a dubious one.
That's a dubious one. So it presupposes that some of the debts that have been paid back are dubious. And so IMF is not going to sit down and watch government, spend money this kind of way. There's got to be some physical discipline, put in place.
Well, Mohammed, beyond the subject, Atik, of where we've overrun our budget and it's all because we've not been disciplined enough fiscally, it also means that the IMF being in town is going to streamline the way the structure of our expenditure is and what the plan going forward will be if it's for the next year, the next 5 fiscal years, so to speak.
You see, look, I've made this point and I'll repeat it on this platform again. The invitation extended to IMF was unnecessary in the sense that we are inviting them to come and offer us what we call financial assistance. And if you know the IMF, this is something everybody who cares to follow or to read about the IMF, it's a common feature that anytime you invite them for financial assistance, you have to undertake some economic reforms. Because the invitation to the IMF is always subsequent to a country's economy running out of balance. When there are so many imbalances in your economy, that is when you invite them for financial assistance. Because the imbalances lead to scanty resources, it leads to huge deficits because you don't have enough revenue to match your expenditure and so on and so forth. Now, I am saying that Ghana will still have enough revenue. The question has always been disciplined expenditure, rational expenditure. If you go and engage in irrational expenditure, you see, our revenues, I have always made the point that, look, our tax efforts are very weak. We have a lot of tax bases we can work upon and ensure that we maximize our domestic revenue. We leave those tax bases and we are always squeezing those who are already paying taxes. It gets to a point, there's some diminishing returns setting in. If I'm forced to overpay taxes, it gets to a point I start evading tax.
There's some level of saturation.
Exactly. And that is exactly what this administration is doing. And look, there are a lot of economic models to substantiate the point that when you increase the rates of tax, the tendency is always that the returns on those particular taxes reduce. But this administration thinks that oh, it is a few, I mean, it is just a segment of our population that pays tax, they should continue to pay more tax. The rest, or the majority who don't pay taxes, should be spared. We need to widen our tax basis and so on. Now, if we have the capacity to expand our tax efforts to, is there? It's not as if we've lost hope, we can't, maximize our tax efforts. We can do that. It's just a question of commitment. Now, if you have that capacity, you have that potential, you should be leveraging on that potential. Instead of saying that, look, where we have gotten to, we have lost hope. You have to come and help us with money. We can raise the money domestically. The only problem is that when the money is raised, you don't spend it just anyhow. But this administration feels that it is tedious to go raising more revenue. So what do? Let's finance our budget. And when you are financing your deficit, there are two ways you can do that. Either you print money or you borrow. In our case, for now, they've spared us the printing bit because that one can be very scandalous. They are engaging more in borrowing. They go for short-term expensive.
And you're saying that's not the best way to go. We have on the line Gilbert Ibrahim. Is a lecturer but also an economist. A very good morning to you, Mr. Ibrahim. Now, with the IMF coming to town, there's all this criticism around, and I have my panelists in the studio who have also expressed their own reservations. Is it necessarily because we've been very much as a country indisciplined as far as our fiscal expenditure or policy is concerned? But we think that, well, we're in difficulties or challenges. As a result of that, we need Uncle Sam to come in and make sure that, well, we're well within our rights to be very much disciplined in what we have to do going forward.
Yeah, with the issue of different cases and stuff, I was just listening. If you look at the demands within the country and then the demands on government regarding issues government is supposed to provide, social interventions among others, you realize that there's a huge demand on the side of government. And when you look at the finances around, you realize that the deficits are obvious. And over the years, we've experienced couples of deficits. And some financial panic and the foreign exchange panic within the foreign currency area. If the panic starts rising and they are not carefully managed, then it develops into crisis. So that we have the financial crisis and then we have the foreign currency crisis. And then, so if you look at now, I honestly, let me be honest here, that at this particular moment, what we need more is prudence, financial discipline, extreme, and so that the government do not allow social pressure to push them to engage in expenses that would worsen the already bad situation regarding finances. Now, it is important to create domestically sustainable policies that can bring genuine growth and development that we all seek. And you and I know, if even those policies genuinely will be implemented now, it will take time a little before the gains will come. But then the kind of democracy will run. Government will want to stabilize the situation, and as it's getting a bit stabilized, then you come with some of the domestic ones that will bring the gains tomorrow, so that Ghana becomes self-dependent and independent, so that we can now run as we have. Now the IMF coming on board at this time. From the side of governance, it is one of the easiest ways to stabilize, because there will be an injection of foreign currency that will create some kind of balance, and the pressure on the local currency can be reduced a little, so that we gain some minimum stability within the foreign currency market. Then it brings some kind of leverage on government budget, temporary, and that means that we can harness some gains from this. And it's important to do it too, also because we are members of that international community, and this facility is available. So it's no crime, it's not evil, it's not bad to access it. After all, we can access it. But that should not be the finality, and that should not be on a basis on which you tell people that your problems are fixed and are solved. It wouldn't solve them, but it gives a temporal stability. And we will still require discipline and local and regional policies that will bring the kind of growth and development that we want. But this is good because it gives government a little leverage to stabilize. Then after that, if we are not able to bring our own policies in place that will bring the necessary growth that we want, then the gains that this will even bring will be eroded further and will be worse off.
In your early submission, or in this very submission that you made early on, you made mention of the fact that government should not be pressured socially to be, let me just put in plain language, making promises, etc. Over the last 2 years, and it's been confirmed by the close of the current fiscal year, we're still going to overrun the budget. So 2013, we witnessed it. 2014, we're likely going to witness it, all on the back of 2012 as to what the expenditure was within the period. The budget already we know for the year. The president at the Ogwa Fitua Fashe is promising in 10 communities in the central region polyclinics, and polyclinics we know are huge capital expenditure items on any country's budget. We have other social, provisional, infrastructural facilities that we also have put on our budget. Is it that, well, we feel the society needs it, the country needs them, and so we just can't stop or fall short of just putting those items on the budget?
Now, with this one, you know that when it comes to those kind of activities, there's nothing government can do because they need to be provided. And you remember that
we'll continue to overrun. Is that what you're saying?
It's not about overrunning. It's not about overrunning. You see, infrastructure development and capital expenditure is core and it's key to the development of the country. Because when you invest properly and judiciously in infrastructure like that, yes, the burden comes, but the same money circulates within the system. Then it eases the tension within the system. Then it brings the necessary velocity of the money that circulates, and that brings about leverage and development. But then if you take the same money and then you put it into recurrent, that is where I was coming from, that the government should not bow to pressure. It's more onto the recurrent than developmental. Developmental is cool. You can borrow, and you can put some into these social interventions, and you can put some into other ventures that are self-sustaining and self-financing. In that case, you wouldn't have a problem. And that's a good step. But if you go for loans, that you put some and divert some into taking care of recurrent issues, how do you finance them? And that will burden the country. But if this comes to go into this social amenity, remember, when the house is finally put, people go there, they pay something. Health insurance and other people finances are there. You can recoup it somehow. And remember, in the process of constructing, you get some contractors and some other people. Money still comes to help support the people. But if you take it and there's a pressure from maybe teachers, you quickly will cut it here and pay there. You cut it from here and pay the recurrent expenditure. Government needs the vehicle, you cut it and go and buy some. Government needs it. That is where you will get yourself into a situation. The fiscal project will not be completed. And also, you will not satisfy the people because there's no pay enough that you give to any Ghanaian that will be satisfied. Then at the end of the day, you come back to your place.
Well, Ibrahim, from all that you're saying, these observations, just like everybody has made, you also seem to have made. It means government is not learning after all, or perhaps government has put itself in a very fixed position that it's difficult to divulge itself of the interest and the needs and especially the acidities has been experienced within the economy.
You see, that is the issue. But then the point is this: the single spine usually is supposed to patch remuneration with productivity. But in Ghana, in our thinking, we look at our lifestyle and our needs, and based on our lifestyle and our needs, we demand for more wages and salaries. And salaries are not paid because of the needs of the people. Salaries are paid based on your productivity. You see?
Okay.
So if government will, if even the single spine that we know was supposed to pay payments with productivity, then we stick to that.
Okay.
And not just succumb to any pressure. And I think that government must stand its ground. Any group that comes with a genuine case for some kind of payment, except those that you are owing, if you are expect to pay.
Well, Ibrahim, so for you, going to the IMF was the best thing, at least we could have done in the interim?
I think for now, it's one of the options that's available if it can ease the pressure a little temporarily so that you can get the stability you require and launch into major productivity. No, but if there's another option apart from going to the IMF that will create that temporary stability, we could access it. And at the moment, it's the IMF that's available. So in my estimation, it's not wrong for government to seek a little leverage there that will help government stabilize. And then we learn and move on. There's nothing wrong with that.
All right, thank you very much, Gilbert Ibrahim. And Gilbert Ibrahim is a lecturer and also an economist and helping us with the discussion. You're commenting, he seemed to have agreed largely to it, but he feels that, well, government, with the current challenges that the country is facing, has no option.
That is where my disagreement is, and I think I started making a point about government opting for financial assistance. Look, the IMF, it is true, and this argument, I get it repeatedly. People say, we are a member of the IMF. That is not in doubt. But the fact that you are a member of IMF doesn't automatically mean that anytime you are in difficulty, you should run to the IMF. And especially the kind of option you choose to exercise at the IMF is also very crucial. They offer both technical and financial assistance. If you go for technical, and that's what I was thinking that this country can do, the only we're talking about the need to stabilize the economy. The IMF intervention, it's not as if they are bringing in a huge amount of money to come and stabilize the economy. No, the IMF itself is cash strapped. They depend on contributions from member countries and the repayments that members do and so on. Every member country is entitled to a quota. You cannot go beyond your quota. And the quotas that member countries are entitled to are, for the most part, very minimal. They are not huge sums of money. So if the understanding is that we can only stabilize the economy by the kind of forex that IMF is bringing, I think that is a little simplistic. This government knows exactly what to do. You know why they went to the IMF to seek the financial assistance. It is simply, it is a smart move. Government doesn't want to discipline itself so that, because the IMF intervention is going to come at a huge social cost. People are going to lose jobs, subsidies are going to be removed, what is it called? And so many other interventions that government... Look, they can even tell you that this social intervention we've brought, for instance, LEAP, is a huge cost to government with very minimal returns. So why don't you scrap it? So the intervention of IMF is going to come at a huge cost. If government indeed wanted to discipline itself, maybe some of these costs would have emerged. So government is trying to be smart by saying that, look, let's bring in the IMF. If there's going to be any backlash, we'll say, why? This is an external program that is being implemented. We have no hands in determining how the IMF came came to the point where they got to by way of the issues they are presenting and so on and so forth. But if the bottom line is discipline, government can decide to cut down on wasteful expenditure. It is something that government can do. You don't need IMF intervention to do that. You understand?
But perhaps government needs the legitimacy now to divulge itself of the...
That's what I'm saying. Government wants
of the difficulties that it finds itself.
And that is the point.
By its own actions.
So it wants IMF to take
That's
the
your argument.
That is the argument. That government wants IMF to take the
And that's why government should have gone to the IMF at all.
No, they should have gone, but for technical assistance, not financial. Because the financial assistance forces you to undertake some reforms, which come at a huge social cost. Why did we have to bring in farm scale?
And that's what we call conditionalities.
I'm being charitable by saying reforms. These are conditionalities that you have to undergo.
That compel you to.
That force you actually to do certain things. At the end of the day, the social cost is very huge. And government doesn't want Ghanaians complaining. TUC is already giving indications that, look, we are not comfortable with this bailout and so on. So if there is a backlash by way of people losing more jobs. It is a bailout.
It is a bailout.
So is it a bailout?
It is.
Okay.
So if people are losing jobs, TUC is going to complain. Workers themselves are going to rise up. And government doesn't want that backlash. So why don't we transfer or shift the branch to the IMF so that if anybody complains, we say that this is an external program. It is independent of government and so on and so forth. I want to end by saying that, look, this IMF intervention, what they are coming to do is something government could have done. If it is about the injection of foreign capital, of foreign exchange, we are going for all kinds of loans. Even in our crisis, we are still contracting billions of US dollars by way of loans. If it is the injection of foreign exchange into our economy that can give us the stability as the economist was claiming, then I think that the loans we are receiving should be enough to give us that stability. It should be enough to normalize the depreciation of our cedi. But the point is that it goes much beyond the
Injection
inadequate
of cash.
supply of foreign exchange. It is about, the bottom line is government in discipline. You can discipline yourself, but government doesn't want to discipline itself.
I think that's all right. You like criticizing government.
No, you agree with me on this, not criticism.
No, I don't agree. I
It's
ask
a
questions.
genuine...
I don't agree with you on it. I ask questions.
But when I explain and you find that it makes sense, you agree with me. This is a genuine...
All right.